Once you stop caring, results come. Zen and Buddhism teachings. What if I told you that the key to peace, happiness, and success is not in trying harder, but in letting go? In today's video, we're diving deep into a powerful Zen teaching that could transform the way you live. Stick with us, and you might just find the answer to the struggle you've been facing all along. Have you ever felt like the harder you chase something, the further it slips away? Whether it's success, love, or even inner peace, it feels like the more we want something, the more elusive it becomes. This paradox is one of life's most intriguing truths. When we stop obsessing over outcomes, things often come to us effortlessly. Today we're going to explore how Buddhist philosophy, particularly Zen teachings, can help us release our attachment to outcomes, leading to more peace, clarity, and success in our lives. Section 1. The paradox of letting go, but also mentally and emotionally. The more tightly we grip something, a goal, a relationship, or even an idea of success, the more it slips through our fingers. This may sound counterintuitive. I've personally discovered something fascinating. The more I focus on trying to control outcomes, the more elusive they seem. But when I let go, life often surprises me in ways I couldn't have planned. This isn't just about big goals or grand achievements either. It applies to the everyday challenges we face. When we let go of expectations and rigid control, we open ourselves to the present moment, the place where real growth happens. Imagine for a moment that you're holding a ball in your hands. The tighter you grip it, the more difficult it becomes to keep. The ball might even slip right out of your hands. But if you loosen your grip, the ball stays in your hands with ease. This is how life works too. The more you try to force an outcome, the more you create resistance. You fight against the flow of life. But when you relax, trust the process, and let go, everything falls into place more naturally. This principle can be especially challenging to grasp in the modern world, where we're taught to always strive, to always push for more. Society often tells us that success comes through sheer willpower and control, but Zen and Buddhist wisdom tells us otherwise. It's not about forcing things to happen. It's about allowing them to unfold at their own pace. In fact, the more we try to control, the more we find ourselves stuck. Take, for example, the story of a man who was trying to catch a butterfly. Every time he reached out, the butterfly flew just out of his grasp. The more he chased it, the more it eluded him. But when he stopped chasing and simply sat still, the butterfly eventually landed on his hand, as though it had been waiting for him to let go of the chase. The same principle applies to our own lives. Whether it's chasing a dream, a relationship, or the perfect moment, when we stop chasing and allow life to unfold naturally, we make space for things to come to us. But letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means releasing the pressure we put on ourselves and others so that we can be open to new possibilities. In my own life, I've found that the moments of greatest personal growth often come when I'm not trying to force things. When I step back and simply trust the process, I find that things often work out even better than I could have imagined. Letting go is not about being passive or lazy. It's about accepting that there's a flow to life, and sometimes the best thing we can do is to align ourselves with it instead of resisting it. So, how does this look in practical terms? It can be as simple as letting go of an expectation at work or in a relationship. If you're always striving for perfection, you may miss the beauty of the process. Instead, if you focus on the journey itself, on what you can learn, on what you can give, you will often find that the results come naturally without you even having to chase them. This may feel difficult at first, especially if you've been conditioned to think that success comes from constant effort. But what if, instead of pushing, you let life come to you? What if the key to real success isn't control, but surrender? That's the paradox of letting go. The more you try to control, the more you struggle. The more you let go, the more you allow success, peace, and happiness to flow toward you. Section 2. The story of the young monk. Let's dive into an ancient story that beautifully illustrates this principle. In a peaceful forest, there lived a young monk dedicated to seeking enlightenment. He was diligent, hardworking, and determined to perfect his meditation practice. Every day, he sat for hours trying to empty his mind, striving to connect with deeper truths. Yet, no matter how hard he tried, peace seemed to escape him. The more effort he put in, the more restless he became. The young monk had one goal in mind: to reach true inner peace, a state of pure stillness. He had heard from the elders that through meditation, one could experience a profound connection with the universe. But every time he tried, the results were the opposite of what he expected. His thoughts swirled around like storm clouds, his mind racing, his body aching. He became frustrated, feeling that if he just tried harder, focused more, sat longer, and pushed himself further, he would finally reach the tranquility he sought. But no matter how much he forced it, peace seemed to slip through his fingers. The more effort he put into stillness, the more his mind refused to cooperate. His desire to master his thoughts only seemed to make them grow louder. The harder he tried to be at peace, the more chaotic his inner world became. One day, after many months of relentless effort, the young monk's frustration reached its peak. He decided to seek guidance from his teacher, an elderly monk who had spent decades in meditation. The young monk arrived at the teacher's humble hut, his heart heavy with confusion and doubt. He poured out his feelings of failure and frustration, explaining how hard he had worked, but how little peace he had found. The elder monk listened patiently and then offered a simple yet profound piece of advice. "My young friend, you are trying to capture the wind. You cannot force the wind to settle or to stop. It is only when you stop chasing it, when you stop grasping at it, that it will gently blow through your hair." The young monk was puzzled at first. What did the wind have to do with his meditation? But the elder monk continued, "Peace is like the wind. It is not something that can be captured or forced. The more you try to control it, the further it will slip from your grasp. True peace comes when you stop trying so hard and allow it to come to you. When you release your expectations and let go of your desire to control." The young monk left the elder monk's hut with these words echoing in his mind. Over the next few days, he decided to follow his teacher's advice and take a different approach. Instead of pushing himself to empty his mind, he simply allowed his thoughts to come and go without judgment. He focused on being present with each breath, feeling the sensation of the air entering and leaving his body. He stopped trying to control the process and instead relaxed into it, letting go of the need for perfection or immediate results. And then something remarkable happened. Slowly, as he stopped forcing peace, it began to settle into his heart. His thoughts became less frantic, his body more at ease. The restless energy that had plagued him for so long began to dissipate. The young monk realized that true meditation wasn't about control or effort. It was about surrendering to the present moment, accepting what was, and letting go of the need to control his mind. I remember a time in my own life when I was fixated on achieving something, whether it was a career goal or a personal milestone, and I worked tirelessly to reach it. I'd wake up early, stay up late, pouring all my energy into trying to make things happen. But no matter how hard I worked, it seemed like I was always a step behind, always struggling to catch up. The harder I pushed, the more elusive my goals seemed to be. It wasn't until I took a step back, relaxed my grip, and allowed things to unfold naturally that everything began to fall into place. It was like a weight lifted off my shoulders, and for the first time, I felt at ease with where I was. When I let go of the pressure I'd placed on myself, life began to flow with a newfound ease. Like the young monk, I realized that true success doesn't come from force or control. It comes from acceptance, patience, and trust in the process. This story of the young monk serves as a powerful reminder that sometimes the more we strive for something, the more it slips away. Whether it's inner peace, success, or even love, the key is not to chase it, but to stop chasing and allow it to come to us in its own time. Just like the young monk, we must learn to let go of control, of expectations, and of the need for immediate results. Only then can we experience the true peace that lies within us all. Section 3. The Master's Teaching. One day, the monk meditated by a waterfall. He watched the water flow effortlessly without any struggle. It was simply following the path of least resistance. This moment was a turning point. As the monk sat there, entranced by the rhythm of the waterfall, he realized something profound. The water was not fighting against anything. It was flowing with the natural currents, moving freely and gracefully. There was no resistance, no force. It was as if the water was surrendering to the process, allowing itself to be carried forward without trying to control its direction. It was simply being, flowing as it was meant to, without effort. And in that moment, the monk understood. He realized that this was the essence of peace. To flow with life, to surrender to its natural rhythm, rather than trying to control or fight against it. This insight was beautiful, yet it left the monk with a lingering question. If nature flows so effortlessly, why can't I? Determined to achieve the same sense of peace, he decided to meditate even harder, to concentrate more intensely, to force his mind into submission. He focused on every breath, tried to slow his thoughts, and clenched his jaw in concentration. But the more he tried, the more restless he became. His body tensed, his mind scattered, and the sense of peace he longed for seemed to slip further away. It was as if the harder he gripped at the reins of his mind, the more the horse refused to follow. In frustration, he continued to push himself, believing that if he just tried harder, forced himself to be more disciplined, he would find the inner peace he was searching for. Yet, nothing changed. The more he pushed, the more unsettled he became. He was stuck in a cycle of striving and frustration, and the peace he had glimpsed seemed further and further out of reach. One evening, after another long day of struggling to quiet his mind, the monk was sitting by the waterfall again, lost in thought. That's when his master approached him, silently sitting beside him for a moment. The master observed the monk, sensing his inner turmoil. Finally, after a long pause, the master spoke. "Your mind is like a clenched fist," the master said gently. "The more you tighten it, the more energy you waste and the less you achieve." The monk was puzzled. "But master, I've been trying so hard. I've been putting all my energy into controlling my mind, focusing my thoughts, and striving for peace. Why can't I find it?" The master smiled softly. Peace is not found by force or effort. It is not something that can be grasped by tightening your fist. The more you grip, the less you hold. You must learn to relax, to let go, and to allow peace to come to you. Just as the water flows freely without effort, so must your mind. It's when you stop forcing it, when you stop controlling, that you will experience true stillness. The monk sat in silence, taking in his master's words. He had spent so much time trying to force his mind into submission, believing that peace would come only through struggle. But now he realized that true peace wasn't about fighting for it. It wasn't about forcing his mind to be still or forcing his heart to be calm. It was about letting go, about surrendering to the natural flow of life, just as the water did. The next day, the monk meditated by the waterfall again. This time, he didn't try to force anything. He simply allowed his thoughts to come and go without attachment. He focused on his breath, but without strain. He let go of the need to control, of the desire for immediate results. And as he did, something remarkable happened. His mind began to settle. His breath became slower, deeper, more relaxed. The tension he had carried for so long melted away, and he felt a profound sense of peace, a peace that had eluded him for so long. I've had moments in my own life where I tried to force something to happen, whether it was success in my career, a personal relationship, or even just trying to feel better. I thought if I just pushed harder, if I worked longer hours, if I focused more, I would find the peace I was looking for. But the more I tried, the more exhausted and frustrated I became. It wasn't until I stepped back, relaxed my grip, and allowed things to unfold naturally that I began to see change. Life has a rhythm, a flow, and when we stop trying to control it, we begin to align with it. We can't force the river to move faster, but we can float with its current. When I stopped forcing, everything seemed to fall into place effortlessly. The master's teaching had finally clicked for the monk. By letting go of his tight grip on life, he was able to align himself with the natural flow of the universe. And that's when true peace began to fill his heart. Not by pushing, not by forcing, but by relaxing into life, by surrendering to its flow, just as the water had done. This story is a powerful reminder for all of us. Whether we're chasing success, seeking happiness, or searching for inner peace, we often think that the harder we work, the more we will achieve. But sometimes the key to achieving our goals is not by pushing harder, but by releasing control and letting life unfold naturally. When we relax our grip, when we surrender to the process, that's when we allow true peace to enter our hearts. Section 4. The Farmer's Story. Lesson on Letting Go. The master then shared a story about a farmer who had been struggling with a severe drought. This farmer, like many of us, had been doing everything he could think of to make things right. Every day, he prayed for rain, dug trenches, and did everything he could to prepare his fields for a much-needed downpour. But despite his relentless efforts, his crops withered and despair began to take root in his heart. One day, as he was walking along the barren fields, a wise traveler passed by. Noticing the farmer's desperation, the traveler stopped and offered him a simple but profound piece of advice. Stop chasing the rain. Tend to the soil, nurture the seeds, and let the sky decide when it's time to bring the rain. At first, the farmer was skeptical. How could he just let go of his need for control? After all, the rain was the one thing that could save his crops. But the traveler's words lingered in his mind, and reluctantly, he decided to follow the advice. He focused on what he could control, tending to the soil, nurturing the plants, and giving them the best possible conditions to grow. And as if in response to his newfound trust, the rains came. Not only did the rain nourish the crops, but it also brought a bountiful harvest, beyond what the farmer had ever hoped for. The farmer's story is a powerful example of the wisdom in letting go. It's not that he stopped caring about his crops or gave up on his dreams, but rather, he stopped obsessing over the outcome. Instead of focusing on the rain, he shifted his attention to the process, caring for the soil, nurturing the seeds, and letting go of the need to control the weather. In doing so, he allowed the rain to come when it was ready, and his patience bear. This story really resonated with me. I've found that, like the farmer, I've often been so focused on the end result, whether it's fixing a relationship, reaching a career milestone, or finding inner peace, that I've neglected the process itself. I've gotten so fixated on what I want to happen that I lost sight of the things I can actually control. I've tried to force things to unfold in my own time, pushing for results, only to feel frustrated and defeated when things didn't go as planned. But just like the farmer, I've realized that sometimes letting go of the obsession with the end result can create space for things to happen naturally. When I shift my focus to nurturing the process, whether it's working on myself, building relationships, or simply showing up each day, I allow life to unfold in ways I couldn't have imagined. It's in letting go of the need for immediate results that I find the freedom to grow, to learn, and to experience life as it comes. In our fast-paced world, it's easy to get caught up in the desire for instant results. We want to see progress right away, to know that our efforts are paying off, and to control the outcome of every situation. But like the farmer, sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is to let go of our need to control. When we stop obsessing over the when and how, we create space for the what to unfold in its own time. By nurturing the process, focusing on what we can control, and trusting that life will unfold as it should, we open ourselves up to unexpected blessings and a much more fulfilling journey. Section 5. The Power of Letting Go in Everyday Life. Inspired by the farmer's story, the young monk began to embrace a powerful new perspective: non-attachment. He stopped forcing himself to achieve a specific result in his meditation practice and instead focused on being present in the moment. At first, this felt completely unnatural to him. He would sit there, his mind racing with questions like, am I doing this right? When will I finally feel at peace? The more he tried to quiet his thoughts, the louder they seemed to get. But over time, something remarkable began to happen. Slowly, he noticed subtle changes. His breath, once shallow and hurried, began to deepen, matching the natural rhythm of his body. His thoughts, once turbulent like a storm, began to quiet, just as the waters of a lake calm after a breeze. His heart, too, felt lighter, like a burden had been lifted. He stopped measuring his progress, stopped comparing himself to others, and most importantly, stopped searching for validation. He no longer judged his meditation practice or the results it brought. Instead, he simply sat in the stillness, embracing each moment as it came, like the waterfall that flows effortlessly without resistance. This is a lesson I've been learning myself. The idea of being present without expectation is not something that comes easily, especially in a world that constantly encourages us to strive, achieve, and measure progress. I know I've spent many years chasing success, trying to check off boxes and make sure I'm doing everything right. Whether it's in my career, my personal life, or even in my spiritual journey, I've always felt the pressure to be perfect, to succeed, and to have everything figured out. But recently, I've started to let go of that constant need for control. Just like the monk, I've started to approach life and even meditation with less pressure and more openness. And while it wasn't easy at first, I've noticed a shift. Things have started to feel more fluid, more natural. And as I've stopped trying so hard to succeed at life, I've found more peace in the process itself. The true power of letting go lies in our ability to surrender the need for a perfect outcome, whether it's in meditation, our work, or our relationships. When we release the pressure to achieve, to control, or to force things to happen on our timeline, we free ourselves to experience life more fully. Like the monk and the farmer, we learn that sometimes the greatest progress comes not from striving harder, but from simply being present. And in that presence, we find a deeper peace, one that doesn't depend on external results, but simply on our willingness to let go and trust the process. In my own experience, this shift hasn't been immediate, but it's been transformative. I've started to find joy in the little moments, in the process rather than the end result. And slowly, I've realized that letting go of the need to achieve isn't about giving up or becoming passive. It's about trusting that the universe will unfold as it should, and that our job is not to control it, but to flow with it. I've started to see that peace is not something we attain by forcing it, but by allowing it to emerge naturally, in its own time. So whether you're working on a personal goal, navigating challenges in your career, or simply trying to find peace in your daily life, remember this: you don't have to control every outcome. Letting go isn't about giving up. It's about giving yourself the freedom to be present, to accept what is, and to trust that everything will unfold as it's meant to. And just like the monk, when you stop pushing so hard, you may find that peace, success, and growth come more naturally than you ever imagined. Section 6, The Butterfly's Struggle, Transformation Through Letting Go. One afternoon, as the monk sat in quiet meditation, something unusual caught his eye. A butterfly was struggling inside its cocoon, its tiny body writhing in an effort to break free. The monk felt a strong urge to help, to ease the creature's struggle, to speed up the process. But just as he was about to intervene, his master appeared beside him, gently placing a hand on his shoulder. If you interfere, the butterfly will never gain the strength it needs to fly. Let it struggle, for through struggle comes transformation. In that moment, everything clicked. The monk understood that his own spiritual journey mirrored the butterfly's struggle. Just like the butterfly, enlightenment couldn't be rushed or forced. It required the natural process of growth, the challenges and the struggles, to allow him to evolve into something greater. His master had taught him that true transformation doesn't happen through shortcuts or force. It happens through patience, persistence, and allowing the process to unfold in its own time. This story strikes a chord with me because it's a lesson I've had to learn over and over again. So many times in my life, I've tried to rush my own personal growth. Whether it's breaking a bad habit, learning a new skill, or even trying to find inner peace, I've always been in a hurry. I wanted instant results, quick fixes, easy solutions. But just like the butterfly, I've had to come to terms with the fact that growth doesn't happen overnight. It happens in the struggle, in the uncomfortable moments, in the times when it feels like nothing is changing. It's only through the struggle that we gain the strength, wisdom, and resilience we need to truly transform. The butterfly's struggle was essential to its transformation. Without that effort, its wings would never have developed the strength to carry it. And just as the butterfly emerges from its cocoon as a beautiful, powerful creature, so too do we emerge from our struggles stronger and more capable of soaring in life. I've also come to realize that trying to avoid struggle is a form of resistance. Life is full of challenges, and while it's natural to want to avoid discomfort, these struggles are often the very things that shape us. It's through those tough moments, whether we're dealing with personal challenges or working towards a goal, that we build the resilience and strength needed to achieve what we desire. I think about my own growth journey, and I see how much I've learned from the struggles. They've made me who I am today. The discomfort has been part of the process, not something to run from, but something to embrace. Just like the butterfly, we must learn to trust the process of growth. The moment we stop resisting, the moment we stop trying to force things, is when true transformation can take place. Life is not about rushing through the struggles, but about embracing them. Understanding that each challenge is shaping us into who we are meant to be. Letting go of our need to control the outcome gives us the freedom to experience the process of transformation, even when it feels difficult. This is a mindset shift that I'm still working on, and it's not always easy. But when I look back at my life, I can see how much more powerful the lessons were when I allowed myself to go through the struggle. Whether it's personal development, career challenges, or even relationships, I've learned that growth comes from the hard moments. Just like the butterfly, the beauty of who we are becomes clearer once we've gone through the process of struggle, change, and ultimately release. So the next time you feel stuck or frustrated with the pace of your progress, remember the butterfly. Let go of the need to control and force things. Trust that every struggle you face is helping you grow stronger and more resilient. Through patience and acceptance, you too will emerge as a transformed version of yourself, ready to spread your wings and fly. Section 7. The Art of Letting Go. Practical Applications. Letting go doesn't mean giving up or becoming indifferent. It's not about abandoning your dreams or stopping your efforts. Instead, it's about releasing your attachment to specific outcomes. It's about engaging fully in the process, embracing the journey, without being consumed by the desire for a particular result. Imagine life as a skilled archer preparing to shoot an arrow. If the archer grips the bow too tightly, his aim becomes shaky. The more he forces himself to hit the target, the more his focus blurs. But when he relaxes, trusts in his training, and simply lets go of the arrow, it flies with precision, straight and true. This is the paradox of letting go. It's the moment when we stop obsessing over the result and instead trust the process. We allow the arrow to reach its mark without forcing it. Similarly, when we release our need for control and stop obsessing over the outcome, we allow life to unfold with greater clarity, ease, and grace. This concept has been a game changer for me in many areas of my life. I've always been someone who liked to control every little detail, whether it was my career, my relationships, or even my personal growth. I was so focused on the end result that I often found myself frustrated when things didn't turn out the way I expected. But when I started applying this idea of letting go, I noticed a huge shift. I stopped trying to force things into place, and instead, I allowed life to unfold naturally. It was like I was no longer fighting against the current, but instead, learning how to flow with it. Letting go isn't about passivity. It's about letting go of resistance. Just like the archer who focuses on his form and trusts the release, we too must focus on the present moment, engaging fully in what we're doing without obsessing over the final destination. When we let go of attachment, we free ourselves from the weight of expectations, making room for creativity, spontaneity, and joy. Take a moment to think about something in your life that you've been holding on to too tightly. It could be a career goal, a relationship, or even the desire to be happy. What happens if you stop obsessing over the end result and simply engage with the present moment? For me, it's been the realization that by releasing my attachment to specific outcomes, I've been able to experience a deeper sense of fulfillment. I no longer measure my worth by the results, but instead, by the effort and joy I put into the process. One of the most beautiful things about letting go is that it opens up space for new possibilities. When we stop clinging to old ideas or expectations, we create room for unexpected opportunities to enter our lives. We stop limiting ourselves with rigid goals and instead open ourselves to the infinite potential of the present moment. Life becomes less about striving and more about flowing. I used to be so rigid in my expectations that I missed countless opportunities along the way. The moment I stopped focusing so much on the how and when, I started noticing the small, beautiful things around me. And the funny thing is, when I stopped forcing, things started to happen on their own. The projects I had been stressing about for months suddenly fell into place, and relationships that had been tense became easier and more natural. So how can we start applying this art of letting go in our own lives? It starts with awareness. Begin by noticing when you're holding on too tightly. Are you clinging to a specific outcome? Are you obsessing over how things should go? Once you recognize this attachment, gently release it. Focus on the task at hand, engage fully, and trust the process. The more you practice this, the more you'll experience the freedom that comes with releasing control. For me, the process of letting go has been gradual but profoundly transformative. It hasn't been easy and it doesn't happen overnight. But every time I remind myself to release my attachment to a particular result, I feel lighter and more at ease. I've learned to trust the flow of life more and more. And when I do this, things just seem to work out in ways I never imagined. The art of letting go is not a one-time lesson, but a lifelong practice. It's about surrendering to the flow of life, trusting in the process and in each moment without the need for perfection. Let go of the need to control every outcome and watch how life opens up before you, full of clarity, possibility, and unexpected joy. The monk's journey of surrender revealed that life is not about forcing results, but about embracing the journey. Over time, he found peace not by chasing it, but by letting go of the attachment to it. As you go through life, remember that the key to fulfillment lies not in grasping, but in releasing. Not in striving, but in surrendering. Trust in the process, trust in yourself, and trust that the universe will unfold as it should. I encourage you to reflect on where in your life you may be holding on too tightly. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you release the fear of control and embrace life as it comes. Thank you for watching. I hope this video helped you see that the path to peace and success is not through force, but through trust, patience, and letting go. If you found value in this video, please subscribe and leave a comment sharing how you plan to let go and trust the process in your own life.